Hello, Serge here from the backyard driving range. Hitting a pitching wedge, which is first time I've ever done that with a full pitching wedge here into the net. And I did it today because of the question. Next one I'm going to read involves a question about wedges. And the question is from Rich Parrow, and he says, how many wedges would you recommend average golfers carry? All right, let's start off with I guess what I have in my bag. I carry two at the moment, most of the time, pitching wedge and a sand wedge. Occasionally, depending on the course, if it's got really elevated greens and some tough pin placements where you can miss it and you really got to get the ball up and down, I'll put a lob wedge in my bag, and the lob wedge is my lob wedge is 60 degrees. So I might have the lob wedge, sand wedge at 56. Lob wedge at 60, 56, and then my pitching wedge is 48. I don't carry a gap wedge. I got rid of the gap wedge a couple years ago because I just don't like the way they build gap wedges today. They make them look more like sand wedges, and because of that, they also hit more like sand wedges. And I would like my gap wedge. I want my gap wedge to be more like a pitching wedge. So since I can't find one that gives me that look and the shot I want, I just use the pitching wedge. So what I do with that is when I have to hit and my pitching wedge being 48 degrees, I got an 8-degree gap between my 48 pitching wedge and my 56 sand wedge. So when I need something in between, I just start choking up on the shaft a little bit for whatever I need. I've learned to touch and feel with the distance and that I need in conditions, whether the wind is in my face, sideways, or whatever. I've developed a touch of choking up. Naturally, you shorten the string and you make the normal swing, and it can't go as far. All right. Never mind the fact that I can bump it more in between and take speed off of it and hit it shorter if I want. So it's really improved my short game and my shot making in terms of hitting more knockdowns and all kinds of different shots that to hit the distances I want with a height I want, and it's actually started to help me do the same thing with the rest of my clubs. So it's really helped my shot making. So I would say for the average person, you want a sand wedge. You can decide. Some pros have them 54, 55, or 56. You can adjust that by, if they don't make in your model, in the club you have a 54 wedge, you can always bend it a little bit or whatever. DJ plays now with a 58 sand wedge and a 54 pitching gap wedge and then a pitching wedge, I believe is what he's got in his bag. He changes things out like a lot of the tour players do, depending on the conditions. So go at your course and figure out what you need. And but I would think at most you want a sand wedge, 56 degrees, gap wedge, and a pitching wedge, and then and only use 3 wedges at the most, because that allows you to have much more, a few more hybrids in your bag, which will be important for helping you hit those longer shots that you have to par 5s and par 4s, and even long par 3s to be able to get on the green. Because again, most golfers that we see now, basically higher handicappers, slower club speed golfers, for men, seniors, women, and even kids, probably a 5-iron is the most club you should have in your bag. And even on the LPGA Tour, from what I hear, that 5-iron is pretty much the highest that you're going to find in almost everybody's bag, and many of them, the 6-iron is the highest. And so they're going to the hybrids because they're designed to be shorter. That's why we see people so many times writing in and saying, hey, I can't hit my driver on my 3 with a fairway woods, but I can hit my hybrids. The length has everything to do with it, because loft is based, the loft that you can hit your shot, the trajectory, the height that you can hit is based on club head speeds. And if you can't generate enough club head speed, you need a club that has more loft to get it in the air. And when it has better loft and it's hit more solid and straight, you'll definitely get better distance. The ball will penetrate through the air better, hold the line better, and you'll have more control of it and hit it longer than you will an iron that you can't get up in the air. And so I think it's important to have a few wedges, but in the end, I think in some cases it would be better off swapping an extra wedge, or like a lob wedge, especially if you're not hitting it that well. I think you're better off swapping a lob wedge for another hybrid, and keep a. I've seen golfers now with 2, 3, and 4 different hybrids because they hit them so much better than the irons. So we can't get rid of our wedges, but I think you can need to experiment. If you've already got a full 2 or 3, 4 different wedges, take one out of the bag for a couple times and see, and keep track of how many times you use it. And that, to me, there's nothing better than knowing that if you haven't used the club or at best once a round, and in many rounds you don't use it at all, put another one in and see if you're going to get more use out of that club. There's no sense keeping it in the bag if you're not using it. And so go with these little tests to see, you know, which sand wedges, which mountain edges will work best for you. And I'll bet you in the end you're going to find that find the right number of wedges, and then hopefully you can leave a few extra clubs to put hybrids in, and you're going to see a big difference in hitting more fairways and greens and shooting lower scores. Well, that's it for the search for today, and I'll be talking to you all again soon.